Hi, you are listening to Adulting with Ebony, and this episode is part of a mini series over the summer of 2024, where I am republishing some of my favorite episodes from season two so that I get to walk my talk and have a summer off while continuing with the consistency of producing an episode for you each and every week. These episodes are my favorite seven from series two, which is really difficult to compile, by the way. So if you enjoy these episodes, you can always go back to the full season and binge listen to a load more. But over the summer of 2024, I am going to be sharing with you seven of my favorite episodes of season two. And I will be back with a brand new season eight, in September. Until then, have a wonderful summer. Please, as you're listening to these episodes, come and connect with me on Instagram. Let me know how you're getting on. And as always, please share the podcast, rate and review. It means so, so much to me. You are listening to Adulting with Ebony. Season 7 brings together neurodiversity, human design and embodiment so that Gen X or millennial misfits and late diagnosed neurospices become empowered, embodied and fully expressed. This is the show where I actively encourage you to feel your feelings rather than think them. Glow up, not grow up, and become full of yourself. Because who the fuck else should you be full of? Each week, I have real and raw conversations about what it takes to be fully resourced and have happy, healthy, intimate relationships as a dopamine deficient adult wanting to create a better future by being the change that you want to see in the world. I am your host, Ebony Allard, aka Ebony Alchemy, a late diagnosed ADHDer, combined type and Asperger's in case you like specifics, artist, mystic, and self-actualization facilitator. I'm an international award-winning multiple brain integration technique master coach with special interest in embodied human design for neurodivergence. I've been in the personal development, creativity, and entrepreneurship spaces all of my life. And as a 5'2" emotional manifesting generator with a left angle cross of distraction, I am here to help you know what to trust and what to tune out. Each week, I share relatable, practical ways that mean you get to take less responsibility for more reward and safely remove your camouflage for more belonging, acceptance, and fulfillment. Ready? Let's go. Welcome to this week's episode. Today I'm joined by Matt Thomas, who works with business owners to rock their brand, audience, and income. His mission is to help more people build businesses around who they really are and the work that they truly love. At the heart of all this is the belief that connection conquers all. Feeling connected to the brand you build, the audience you attract, and the work you deliver. Connection equals clarity, confidence, and conversion. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how are you?
I'm really good, and I love that I get to talk to my friends on this show. It makes work so much fun because connection, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Like, this is the best thing in my diary today, right? It's not really, because I've got some amazing clients as well, right? But yeah, of course, just do the way you love, right? It's easy. Makes everything easier.
It really does. And I think one of the things that I love about what I just said and what I just read, and that it's true for you, is that if you're not feeling connected to the brand, to the audience, if you're not being who you really are and doing the work that you truly love, there's no longevity and it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably true in business and in life, right? Like, if we are not feeling something, if it doesn't feel true to us, if it doesn't feel congruent with the place that we want to get to, then it's very difficult for us to muster motivation, enthusiasm on a daily basis, let alone to, I guess, put that out to the world and to mirror it to a client base. And so a lot of people come to me with various things that are not working in their businesses or various things that they would like to get done. And I think it almost comes back to kind of the two questions that ultimately the answer to connection, and for me the answer to business and to life, which are on my wall when I come down the stairs, looking at me every single day. A beautiful Anthony Burrell print. If you don't know Anthony Burrell, please check him out. He's a genius. And they just say, who are you? What do you want? And I'm kind of trying to answer that every day through my art, through my business, through the way that I show up in the world, and the way that I show up for my clients and my customers and my community. And I think that when we're in sync with that, which, God, I'm not always, right? But when we are in sync with that, the work that we do is truer, it's more purposeful, and we're able to help people and deliver the products and services that we want to do to get the results that our clients should expect. And the world is a better place.
Yes.
Sorry, jumped around a bit there.
So let's roll back, okay?
Yeah.
And I love that, actually, because this is a really good way into it. With the kind of who are you and what do you want in mind, what does adulting mean to you?
I think adulting to me, with that in mind, is the pursuit of being true to who I am and the things that I want. And so entrepreneur Michael Smith, who now co-runs Calm, the app Calm, he once said to me that the most important thing is that the most important thing is always the most important thing. And when he said it to me, I think I kind of like, yeah, right. It's just one of those things that's always stuck with me, right? And when he said it to me, it was in an interview about business, and I thought, oh, it must be like, what's your biggest business objective of the day or the week or whatever, right? Like, is it, you've got to close this sale or what have you? And actually, I just think that, like, we get distracted by so much of what weighs down on us that we sometimes lose track of, like, even why we're doing what we do. And we go in pursuit of feeding those things that are weighing down on us, learning how to do new things, tactics, things like, whatever it is, making money.
Yeah.
And we just get stuck in this cycle of pursuing things that aren't what we want, or what are going to make us happy, or are true to who are we, what do we want. And so I think adulting is about giving it your best shot at kind of being who you want to be, doing the work that you want to do, living your art, being the best person that you want to be, working on the things that I firmly believe we're all works in progress, right? So, and I think it's impossible not to be, because I think that everything around us is forever changing, and externally and internally. And so I think adulting to me is kind of like staying true and focused to what you're here for.
Yeah. I was actually going to share a slightly personal story, which some of the people on the podcast will know a bit about, because everything's changed in the last, couple of 6 months, let's say. And one of the reasons that it changed is because you and I have known each other for a while, and we were speaking on the same stage, and we got to chatting, and I was like, actually, I want some completely different eyes on my stuff, because something's not working, and I can't see it because I'm too close to everybody. And the other thing that people will notice is that last year, or in season 1 of this podcast, I did 111 episodes, and there were 4 men. And this year, season 2, there's a lot more, and there's a reason for that. I'm kind of opening I feel like there's a lot of spaces where there are a lot of men. And so I wanted to give other people and other voices a chance to be seen. And then also I feel like there's a lot of people who don't know any good men, and I know lots of them. So I'm sharing all the good men with my people. And so we sat down and we had a conversation. And we spent most of the day doing businessy stuff and all the things you're supposed to do. And then right at the end of the day, you asked me essentially that question, right? Like, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do? And you would have thought that I asked myself that most days, which I do. And like, what was missing from my business model actually was that connection. Like, I was building the bit, like I was literally doing the thing I tell people not to do all the time, which is building the business I thought people wanted me to build rather than what I really wanted. Do you see that often?
I see it all the time. And I think it's a product of It's a product of a few things. I think it's partly a product of the kind of the commercialization of business knowledge and advice, and so people have stuff to share, and the stuff that is the most marketable is a quick fix, end to end. This will fix your business if it's not working properly, and that could be anything, right? And I would ring fence it as a tactic. And so I think that when something's not working, it's easier for us to go in pursuit of a solution, and try and apply something that's working for somebody else to our situation. Whereas, and to kind of reverse engineer a result, and we hear that phrase reverse engineer, it's certainly one I've used previously as well. But actually, if you're reverse engineering to a position that you're at the moment, which still isn't necessarily comfortable and right and what you should be doing, the tactic or the funnel or the whatever is never going to really work for you. And so that's why I see a lot of people kind of, and I think it's a dangerous thing, because I see a lot of people who are possibly not necessarily in the wrong business, but it's the identity, positioning, messaging, kind of how they feel about it, how they're working kind of needs the real work before the next thing. And so what happens is they apply the sticker, the fix, and it doesn't work for them like it worked for the person who sold it to them. And the only result in that is that they blame themselves, because they can see it must work for everybody else and all the others that are doing it. And so we then blame ourselves, and then we get more down on it, and then we kind of beat ourselves up. And in the end, like, we can try this kind of like sticker solution multiple times, and then if it fails multiple times, we do blame ourselves, and we end up kind of usually dropping out. I see it a lot.
Yeah, and for me, like, what I see with this, with the knowledge that I'm gaining, having tried on lots of things, right, is that you just don't know what you don't know. And even if you hear about something in theory, and by something in this situation, we're talking about business models, right? Even if I've got a whole load of business models that I can see in front of me, I'm not going to know what works for me until I try it. And so it isn't a failure, right? It's just that if you're so many people are trying to get to a place of finished business model, or like have something that works fully, when they aren't fully formed, when they haven't tried things. And I wish more people would just be like, you know what, for the first 3 years of my business, I know I'm going to try loads of shit, because I can't possibly know exactly what it is I want to create until I've had a go at some things.
Yeah, and it's there's no one size fits all solution. Very rarely in work or life we're going to find that right. So I'm not sure why we continually try to find that when we know that it doesn't really work, right?
Well, not only that, but we don't, like, the world is changing too, right? So we have a business that has never been done before, because it's made by us, in a world that's constantly changing, and we're trying to find a finite solution, and it's kind of stupid. Yeah,
and ultimately the goal is you. Like, and I will caveat that, because I think, again, there's a bit of a proliferation of just be you, just show up as you, and everything will flow towards you. And I think anybody that is in business and has tried that probably knows that's bollocks as well. And so I will caveat it as be you for your audience. And so that's where the connection aspect comes into it, because if you can identify what you truly bring to an audience, and that audience doesn't need to be hundreds of thousands, very rarely does it, then you are closer to being able to discover what might work, and at least play around with it and connect. And if you've got audience, if you've got connection, you've always got options. If you haven't got either of those things, then quickly you run out of options. And so if there's one thing that should be sacred to you, that you should be protecting, that you should be pouring energy into, it's not creating the next course or building the next product. It should be like, how do I love the fuck out of my people that really need me? Who are the 100 people that need me most?
Okay, so this is really interesting for me, because you've moved from through a lot of different businesses in the time that I've known you, right? So in the last sort of 7 years or 6-7 years, you've been lots of different iterations, and you've also not. You're still Matt, right? And like nothing actually about you. I mean, probably a lot of things. You had a daughter, like your whole life's changed, but like your central, like who you are, you're still you, and you were still you in all of those things.
I was still me in all of those things, but if we're looking at adulting, I think that I have a greater acceptance of who I am, and now than ever before. And I think, as we all should, right? And I hope that I have a greater acceptance of me in a year's time than I do now. And for me, that's everybody's currency. And so when we ask what adulting is, it should be the pursuit of greater understanding and knowledge and acceptance of ourselves, so that we feel the inner confidence and joy to put that out to the world through whatever work that we do. And ultimately, we probably won't have any choice, because the robots will take over the world at some point, and all that will be left for us as humans are the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell others, our imaginations and our creativity.
Absolutely, hurrah to that. And like, as you're talking, I'm like, it is, if we're going to reverse engineer anything, it could be connection, right, in this. And for me, from what you're saying, and also my own experience, you cannot have the kind of connection that you're talking about without self-awareness and self-acceptance.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece of work that I continually do on myself and encourage in others. And I think it has to be encouraged. And I think there's I saw Alan de Botton of School of Life talk at the weekend, and he amused me greatly, but really kind of opened my eyes as well to the difference between US and UK self-development, and which is a generalization, but nonetheless the generalization was fitting for what I was thinking at this point in time. And that if this conference, the Life Lessons Conference at Barbican, were held in LA, there would be a lot of people shouting, "You are amazing, you are brilliant, you can do anything you want," kind of culture, which I think we all are aware of what that is, even though it's a generalization. Whereas what he tries to create in the School of Life, and what he feels that is more of a British thing, is an acceptance that life is a bit crap at times, and actually it's how you position yourself around the challenges that you face, how you act or don't act on the thoughts that you have and the emotions that you have, and how you harness your inner feelings to, again, in a kind of like, what's adulting. For me, adulting is, how do I deliver the true me, the best me to the world, to deliver the best work to help others through harnessing all of those mixed bags of emotion in the funny old, like, fucked up thing that the human body and mind is, right? I love that you said that melancholy is the greatest British export of all time.
Oh, absolutely is. Like, you can see it in our TV shows, right? Like, you can see it in the color grading of a TV show. That's all. You literally just have to turn on the TV show and you're like, oh, it's British. Look, it's got a melancholy grading. True. Yeah.
And of all the things that we shouldn't be proud of being British for, like at the moment, like I'm going to cling on to that one.
Interesting. So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a couple. So I've got one more thing I want to really dive into with you, and then I'm going to do a couple of quick fire questions, because I normally weave them in, and we have talked too much as always. Stories. You tell stories incredibly well, and there are a lot of people out there who talk about connection, talk about content, do all the stuff that you do, and they like give people frameworks for stories. And I've never seen you do that, but I've seen you tell really good stories. What is it that makes an engaging story? And are you someone who spends hours crafting your stories, or do they just come to you?
I spend every waking hour identifying stories in a way that isn't a distraction. It's just that I see the world through stories. And so I can, something good that's in the news, something bad in the news, like what is put in front of me. I used to walk around a supermarket if I was short of stories as a jobbing journalist, because supermarket has like 40,000 brands in it, right? So like there are stories everywhere that we can take and use as inspiration to apply to something else. But more than anything, the reason I can always create a story is because I have an obsession with understanding the melancholy of my audience. And so if I look at my watch now, it is 12:24 on a Thursday. And if I really, really know my audience and care with compassion about how best to help them, I can put myself in their shoes of where they are now. And I know that their feelings will be very different to what they are at 5 o'clock tomorrow, what they'll be on Saturday afternoon, what they'll be on Sunday evening, and what they'll be on Monday morning. And so I can, I'm not wearing a watch now, but I usually wear a watch, and I'll always look and think, what does my audience feel now? And so for me, that is about scenarios. And if I had to give a really quick kind of way of thinking about storytelling and to liven up what you do and help it connect better and deeper, is that more impactfully, is that most people understand what their teach is, where their knowledge is. They understand, where their qualifications, experience, background are. And so if we think of that as one circle, and then if we think about outcomes and transformations that we provide with another, most content that people create for connection is in those two areas. It's kind of like, I'm experienced in this space and I can help you get a transformation or a result in this space. And that's understandable, but it's also quite boring. And it also doesn't let any of you in, really, and it certainly doesn't let any of them in. And so that's why a lot of coaches and consultants and trainers, their content looks very similar, because it lacks emotion and it's steeped in teach, which comes from a good place, a good intention. But actually, very rarely do we open up our phones or social to kind of learn a lesson. Like, people are not queuing up to be taught, right? This is not school.
Oh, to me, it's such a patriarchal way of sharing, and it's like, look, I'm amazing. Look, I'm amazing. It's like, anyway, carry on.
So we should all just get over ourselves, and what we need to do is to find a way to firstly connect and tell a story that is like, oh my God, I understand where you are right now, right? Or this might be an example of where you are right now. Mm-hmm. Or it can be something abstract, right? So like, here's a quick example, right? I was talking with a client of mine the other day, and we were talking about how many of her clients can feel like that everything is shiny and glossy and perfect on the outside, but in the middle, they're a contrast of like total mush and rock hard emotion. And like, no one sees that, and the panic that they have in their life, which stops them being everything they could be on the outside, is the inside. And I was like, well, that's like an avocado, isn't it? Right? Like, an avocado is green and shiny and in demand, right? And loved. And everyone wants to write about it and talk about it. But inside, it's like rock hard and mush, right? And if you spend too long with it, it goes off. Oh. Right? And so like, are you at the moment, right? Like, we can just abstract or emotion, like, you've got to apply something that feels every day. And some people resist that because they see it as a dumbing down. It's not a dumbing down, it's a connection. It's like a way to tell a story to get somebody interested to hearing more. And no matter how good you are, no matter how good your teachers, no matter how much you can help the world, you ain't going to help the world if no one's listening.
Yeah. And you want something that's going to be memorable and that's going to make people feel. I just add an avocado.
There you go. Straight through the heart.
Okay. So, question. What's your relationship with fear like? Just a small question.
Yeah, just a small fear. Just a small question. My relationship with fear is complex, and I think meant to be. And so, if I could summarize probably a 2-year journey with fear, it has gone from a belief that I needed to delete and beat and overcome fears that I have around various aspects of business and life, to a realization that actually the thoughts that I find fearful are actually really good friends to me. They're there. It's a valid good thing to be scared of certain things in certain situations. However, it is not when that prevents you from living the true story that you want to live. And so more, I guess my view now is with those fears is to acknowledge that they're there and say, thanks for that reminder. This is the thought that I'm choosing to go with at the moment.
I really love that. And then it kind of links into my next question, which is there a part of yourself that you've actively adult? Does that make sense to you as a question? Like, yeah,
there's huge parts of me that I actively adult. You know, I have no qualms in saying that I've been overweight for a significant part of my adult life. Had kind of issues with like food disorders. There's been kind of lingering bits of depression and kind of self-belief and confidence. And so, and again, these are not like, you know, I don't think these things are off and on, right? These feelings can coexist.
Yeah.
And do. And so I think, you know, a part of my adulting has been to continue to seek understanding, whilst also realizing, and this is a huge breakthrough for me in the last year, months, weeks, in fact with somebody I'm working with called Sarah Matthews, amazing, you should have on the show, that, you know, we sometimes can get locked down in the fear of the fear, the stories that we tell ourselves about the problem itself, and we kind of continue, we multiply the level of anxiety that you get around something, when actually the thing itself is probably more understandable if you can clear that baggage away, the stories that you tell yourself around it. Grief is the biggest example I would give of that. So an elephant grieves. Grief is a real thing. It's a thing that we should feel, otherwise we'd all be crazy and kill each other, right? So like grief is something that is a human instinct that we should feel. And so animals feel grief, and they will pay their respects to an animal that has passed away, and they will then, after a period of time, move on without those sentiments of grief. Whereas we tell ourselves stories that are engineered through history and tradition that are ultimately foundless. As an example, it's a horrible example, but as an example, parents should never bury a child, right? Like, it's really hard to disagree with that statement on an emotional level, but actually on a factual level, children do die. I'm sorry, they do. And so, you know, we continue to grieve then the emotions that are related to that afterwards, and we build it into a bigger emotion, even though it will always be there. Whereas actually, you know, we could be dealing with our emotions, but I'm going off on a massive tangent there. Sorry.
And
that's not a definition of quick fire, is it?
This is why I like hanging out with you, Matt. We could talk forever and ever and ever and ever. So
we can't end on that, by the way.
No, we're gonna end on an I'm an adult but, which is going to be lighthearted and fun. But before we do that, I want you to tell people where they can find you, where the best place to come and hang out is, and I will absolutely make sure that everything is, all the other things that you forget are in the show notes, and that everything is easy and clickable to find and all of that.
Yeah, just come and find me. I'd like to see if you could find me. I'm at Content Matt on most platforms, so you'll find me at Content Matt. And my website is mattthomas.co. So 3 T's in the middle, mattthomas.co. Easy.
Cool. Will you do an I'm an adult but?
I'm an adult, but I'm a child, like really happily. One of my favourite quotes of all time is Picasso's, I'm probably paraphrasing, but Picasso's quote that it took me a lifetime to remember how to paint like a child. And I believe that we have our inner child conditioned out of us, and that the most creative people cling onto it and maintain it and seek it. And the world is like fucking fun, right? Like half of the stuff we're worrying about, we shouldn't be worrying about it. And if there's a lesson out of, you know, there's adulting for me, is just to like stop stressing about shit that you don't need to stress about anymore. Like chase happiness, chase fun, right?
Yes.
Only here once.
Yes. And we all say we're doing this work because we want freedom, right? And then no one makes time for fucking freedom or fun. Right?
Just keep asking yourself those things, right? Like, is this shit that I'm stressing about right now, is that the most important thing? It's probably not, right? Like, am I going to be stressing about it in a year's time? No. So why am I giving it so much freaking energy now? Right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and talking to me.
Hey, thank you. Pleasure. Love your work. Love you. Love your work.
Thanks.
This has been Adulting with Ebony. I've been Ebony. You've been great. Thank you so much for all of your support. Please keep listening, liking, rating and sharing so that more people can enjoy and engage with us. Go to www.ebonyallard.com/welcome for more, and I will see you next time.